Good day, everybody. Welcome back to our Working Together series live from the Netiv Zoom room with Rod Bryant, and we're just waiting on Rabbi Ingber to show up. In the meantime, let's just bop in and see what's going on with Rod. Rod, how are you? You're live on the Noahide World Center YouTube, Facebook page. What's going on with Netiv lately?
Oh, man, and things are going well with Netiv. We've got a couple of new families that have just joined us recently for the live classes. I just want to encourage you, if you're seeing this for the first time and you don't attend the regular live class, man, please consider joining us. You're going to have a great time of study and learning. Listen, all the questions that you might address and might want to know answers to, I don't know all the answers, but what I'm saying is we live in a community. We've been studying like this for, what are we going, 10 years now, Sandy, I think 10 or 11 years, roughly. Any question that you would have, we've already begun to find out and know the answer and can share it with you. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of different rabbis that are teaching. Some of them know quite a bit and others don't know enough. I was really heartened today when I found out that over Shabbos in the Jewish community.
Yeah, some of them are so specialized, right?
Oh, no, I know. That's exactly it. They're specialized. And so in the Jewish community here, Rabbi Wolbe said they were having a discussion over Shabbos about the laws for the B'nai Noach and how they apply. And that was very heartening that these Jewish men are having discussions along with rabbis about the laws for the non-Jew and how to help those who are in search of Torah.
Very necessary, sure.
Very, very exciting.
Excellent. So good to hear.
Yeah, and we've got, like I said, it's a fantastic time right now for our community. Our classes are going well. Of course, we're going to have a break, probably with Rabbi Avener, until I believe it's April the 4th or 5th. He's going to be taken off because of Pesach and Purim and Pesach. And then we have Rabbi Weissman, who he's not canceling any classes yet, right, Sandy? Maybe next Tuesday, but I don't know.
Yes, it's kind of on a week-to-week basis, maybe
Right.
How he's feeling and then how the holidays fall.
Right.
Yeah,
So make sure
when
you
there's
stay up
holidays,
to
we
date.
all try to respect their schedules, sure.
Right. The important thing is to stay up to date with what's going on in the community
And why it's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we had a discussion this morning before class with individuals who were Noahide, who had children or young, kids that they want to have some type of relationship with other Noahide children and young people, especially for the potential of, future possible marriage. And so it's important that we begin to network and come up with some responsibility, some leadership to do it. So anybody feeling like the urge to do it, I would encourage you to jump in.
I've had a couple encouragements from Jerusalem to work on a child curriculum for just for schooling purposes, maybe homeschooling of sorts. But I've even talked about maybe one lady's willing to maybe be involved and volunteer. But I'm pondering the notion of maybe doing some animations and setting them all up, and there's a lot to it. But one rabbi in Jerusalem put me in touch with a lady who is strong on school ethics, and
Right.
And I wanted to input that as well, and I haven't made that connection yet. I've tried, but just hasn't come together yet. But who knows? I mean,
Right.
I think encouraging it is definitely the starting point. Especially for young people, you don't want them to grow up isolated in a bubble and then wake up one day and realize the world's a much bigger place, and then
Right.
they just get sucked into it real quick. We
Yes.
don't want that to happen.
Absolutely. And also I'll throw in the Noahide mitzvah course that we have put together through YPS should be on tour anytime in the near future. They have agreed to post up all 60 lessons. So teaching
beautiful.
about Noahide laws, teaching what the sages of blessed memory say about the B'nai Noach. So it's a great opportunity to not only educate the non-Jew, but the Jews that are watching and being educated. Rabbi Ingber just entered the room. So Dan, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Well, this is why we're here now. Last week was a great message. He went through some wonderful points out of Jonah chapter 2 and then started to break into Jonah chapter 3. I know this is our third part dealing with the book of Jonah. I'm not sure what the rabbi has in store. Rabbi Ingber, are you there? We're going to turn the class over to you.
I am here. I'm getting a delay.
So good to be with you, sir. And
it's hearing me okay?
Yeah, I'm capturing your voice all right.
Good. I have some kind of delay. It's kind of weird. I'm speaking and then I'm a second behind myself. Okay, so all right, a little confusing. All right, good to see you all. We did start Jonah. We've done a couple of sessions where we are up to the 4th chapter, actually. And so today we're gonna finish the book of Jonah. And next week we'll talk about it more, but I want to talk about the book of Jonah, and then at the end, something that's very related to both this time, what's happening now, and to the holiday that's coming up, which is the holiday of Purim. I'll explain a little bit about that, and we'll talk a little bit about one of the very strange commandments of Purim in light of the story of Jonah, and then we'll hopefully have some discussion about it. Okay, so we're up to the 4th chapter. So in the 4th chapter, we said that after God sends Jonah, I'll call him Jonah again, the Hebrew term, Jonah to Nineveh, he comes back and Jonah says, okay, 40 days, Nineveh will be destroyed. Nineveh hears the rebuke and they repent. As I said before, repent's a bad word. The word is return. Tshuva, returning to what we are, to our essence, which has a place that we want to be connected to God. And so they return, they do tshuva, and then God doesn't destroy them. Jonah gets very upset. And we said last time in the verse chapter 4, Vayira Yonah Ra Gadol, it was very bad for him. And he Vayicharlo, he got upset. He got sick, actually. He was so upset he got sick. It is very weird. We said last time, how do you get upset? You just got people to change. That's very good. We have a few explanations. One that we ended with last time, was that Jonah knew they really didn't fully change. They still had idolatrous beliefs. They still looked at the world as if there is, instead of saying there's a creator, they still attributed power to other forces in the world. They really had not changed in their essence. They did externally, they returned all stolen items, which is great. But Jonah said they didn't really change fully. It's God, you forgave them. Now, why did that bother Jonah so much? We said it bothered him so much because he knew prophetically that these people, the Assyrians, were going to destroy his people. They were going to exile the 10 tribes of Israel. And so he's like, well, these people are not really good. Why are you keeping them around? And this is what got Jonah so upset, that he felt that that God was compassionate to them, even though their tshuva, their returning was not sincere and was not complete. And he saw prophetically, in terms of historically, that this was going to be bad for the Jewish people because they were going to be the ones to destroy the 10 tribes. And I said, this is what we had last week, and this is a very, very, very important lesson. We talked about last time how you see things that are happening, but God's got a divine plan. And things are being moved in a certain direction. What you want to do is you want to find out, what's my role in that divine plan? The person who wants to control it is in a lot of trouble because you can't control it. You can do your part. And that's why sometimes you can try something because your logic dictates this is the right thing to do, but sometimes you have to pull back and say, well, if God doesn't want it to happen, it's not working, maybe I shouldn't push it. Because there is the interaction that is all the time. We are put in this world, we must do. God gave us commandments, we must do. But he's got a grand plan of where he wants things to play out. And it's a dichotomy in a human being, because if I tell you, listen, you're made in the image of God. You could do. So you know what happens? I could do. It's me. And then the person pushes things and believes that they're in complete control. On the other hand, someone who says, well, God's got a grand plan, I'm just going to sit back and do nothing. That person's also off the deep end. This is the balance you need in life. You need to make your effort and still realize that that's all God does expect from you. He wants you, he gives you certain strengths, and within those strengths and within the society you're born in, the time you're born in, that's the effort you make. What's going to be the conclusion? That's probably likely out of your hands. But that's why the judgment is on what are you attempting to do? What are you trying to do? What do you want to do? I want to talk about a podcast. I mean, something happens, it can't work out, it can't work out. But you're trying. This is what you're about. So Jonah has this dynamic now where he's like, I just saved these people. They don't really deserve to be saved, and they're going to be the ones who, in God's grand plan, is going to exile 10 tribes. He's very upset about it. And we got to last week. He says, he wants to the point of death. Now God says to him in verse 4, chapter 4, now, this is a very strange terminology. This is what we're up to now. The word is, I don't know how the English translates it, but it says, are you so angry? Really? The wording is very strange because hatev means good. Is it good that you're angry? So the simple explanation is God saying, like, why are you so angry about? What is it that you think that you're upset about? But there's another way to understand, which is there's a rebuke. Because if you feel good when somebody else has something bad, or feel bad when someone else has something good, that's a problem. And God is telling him, okay, you might have good reasons why you feel this way. You might have rationales why you feel this is justified. But God says it's not a good trait for a person when I give good to somebody to feel bad about it. Okay? This we'll have to explain a little bit more as we're going to go, because there is a concept of God giving reward to righteous people and punishment to evil people. And if you look at the prophets, they're very upset. There was a book, Why Bad Things Happen to Good People. But there wasn't a book of why good things happen to bad people. How come there's no book like that? That is actually the bigger question. Because if I say, why do bad things happen to good people? I don't know how good is he. See, on the outside he's good. But if somebody is really bad and why good things happen, that should bother you too. Because the way of God is pure and just, and bad should not be rewarded. So why, and that's what the prophets scream. They say, why are bad people prospering? That's not a good thing. So Jonah seems to have a point that Nineveh is something wrong with them. And we'll see further. We'll see as we bring this home, what was Jonah's mistake and what God was telling him. So now, next verse 5. So Jonah goes out of the city. Now he's told them they're going to be destroyed, and they repent and they are saved, and God does not destroy them. So Jonah goes out of the city. Why does he go out of the city for? Well, different explanations. One is because he knew they weren't so righteous. He still didn't want to hang around with these people. Even though they were better than they were, he knew they're not the greatest people in the world. He also had this idea. He said, I'm going to go out of the city and watch what happens. Because Jonah thought, even though they weren't going to be destroyed, some shakeup was still going to happen. Because Jonah knew that their repentance was not full. He thought something's going to happen. A minor thing, but something. He wanted to see what was going to happen. He goes out of the city and he builds himself a sukkah, a canopy. Okay, that's in verse 5. Now, you got to get the picture here to understand this next part. I don't know if you ever got caught in like Mid-East sun, Texas sun. You got in a really hot place that you got stuck in and the sun was beating down on you. I don't know if that happened to you. It happened to me once. This was years ago. I was 17, 18. I was in the Sinai desert. So it's already very romantic, biblical. I'm in the Sinai desert and I went snorkeling. And I put my clothes in the little cove that I was staying in. I went stalking, and I came out in the wrong cove. And all of a sudden I come out. I have no shoes. I have no shirt. I have no water. And I'm stuck in the Sinai desert. It was like the greatest imagery in my mind. I was like, wow, I can't last 40 years. I can't last 4 minutes in this. And I started freaking out because like the sun was beating on me, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I really got afraid because I an hour like that, I would have been French toast. I would have been finished. Thank God I found my stuff. And I was able to put a hat on, and put a shirt on, drink some water, and get back to where I was. But if you're in the blazing sun, that's dangerous. Okay. So Jonah is out of the city. He makes himself a canopy, and he sits there. And now in verse 6, God now makes this kikayon tree, a certain type of tree with beautiful leaves. The Talmud describes all its leaves and how beautiful it was, and it grows overnight over Jonah. Okay, now Jonah's totally protected, because before he was only partially protected. He had a little canopy, but the sun kept hitting him. He had to hide it. Now he's totally in the shade. And Jonah, it says, has tremendous joy. He sees this beautiful shade that's above him now, and he feels protected. He feels secure, and he feels really happy. So as Jonah's had a very rough life, ups and downs, in verse 7, next morning before dawn, God sends a certain type of worm, and it kills the tree. And now in the morning, Jonah wakes up, and the sun's beating down on him. And then God brings a ruach kadim charsit. That's like a desert wind. In Israel, they have something called a chamsin. When the wind comes in from the desert, it's really hot. So this heat wind comes in. The sun's beating down on him now, and he faints. He literally faints. So it says, Vayit Aleph. He faints. And he says to God, I don't know if he said it, as he's fainting, before he's fainting, in his fainting state, he says, I'm done. Just let me out of here. He asked for death, essentially. And now God says to him, gives him the rebuke we need to understand. Says to him, God says, are you really that upset over this, you lost the tree? You lost this, are you that upset about it? And he says, yeah, I'm so done. I'm upset to death. I'm finished. So now God gives him the rebuke in verse 10. He says to him, you're so upset that you lost this tree that you did not work on at all. When you work on something, you like it. Very, very important. If anything that comes easy come, easy go. Things that you work on, you invest yourself in. I've mentioned this to you before. That's what the problem in the Western world is, understanding love. They misunderstand the whole idea of love. The idea of love, the word for love in Hebrew is ahava. Ahava is from the root ha, which means to give. So, like, there was a book by a psychologist. It was a decent book. He had some good points, but some fundamental mistakes. It was called "Getting the Love You Want." So, when I heard the title, I knew the book was flawed, because that wasn't the name of the title. The name of the title should be "Giving the Love You Should." Let me explain to you why. Because let's imagine now with a child first, maybe easier than with the spouse, but it's the same principle. I have a child. I invest in this child. I work with this child. So what I'm doing is I am planting myself in this person. Every human being naturally loves themselves. That's why God created it, so that we have a sense of oneness. There's a story about a guy, he was on death row. He tried to kill himself many times in the ancient days. And what happened was, then they were bringing him out to kill him, and a stone from the wall, from the roof, was about to fall, and he jumped out of the way. It's an instinct to preserve ourselves. we feel close to ourselves. When I invest myself in someone else, I become them and they become me. So the child that you give to, you will see that you have this closeness to. A story that happened in Europe. I remember the story. It was during World War II, and this was a family, a mother, father, and a child, and the parents were the father was separated with the child, the mother was separated. And after the war, when they were reunited, there was a certain bond that happened between the father and the son that the mother couldn't really replace, because she didn't have all those years that she invested during the challenges that they had. The word in Hebrew for love is ahava, which means I give. As I'm giving to you, I am you, I naturally feel connected to you. And that's why it's a mistake. Everyone thinks, oh, the love is, I got to get out of you. Well, yes, if it's not reciprocal, it's going to be a problem, of course. But what happens is, in a normal relationship which doesn't have this problem, is when I am now investing myself in the other person, it's a natural response to do the same. If that person's not, then needs counseling, needs intervention. But the normal response should be it's reciprocal. And then I am invested in the person. I feel that love because I am that person. If I'm not investing in them. I just know, well, what can I get out of this relationship? I have a problem. So Jonah, you feel bad. You didn't do anything for this tree. When a person works on a project, they feel something because they invest in. That's why in Hebrew, the word for money in the Talmud is called damim. Damim means blood, because I'm working, I'm investing myself. That's why a person goes and does a job and you don't pay him on time. It's a problem, because what's happening is the person is going and investing themselves into their labor. So Jonah, you feel so bad about this tree you didn't work on? You didn't work on it, you didn't grow it. It was here by day and gone one night and one day it was gone. Which means that there was no time to feel the investment. You feel so upset about it. God says, and this is the conclusion of the book. And God says, if that's true, and I will not feel compassion and a loss on the city, the great city of Nineveh, that has in it more than 12 rebo. That's 120,000 people. 10,000 is more than 120 people that do not know from their right hand to the left hand, and animals, and many, many animals. And what does this mean at the end, that these people don't know their right from their left? What is God saying to Jonah, that, and these people don't know their right from their left hand, and therefore I shouldn't have compassion? What does that mean? Let's understand. Jonah was upset because they did not really repent fully. That's what he's upset about. They didn't really get it together. It's kind of, they faked it. They did a little bit. God says, but don't you see? There's a place they don't understand. It's not an intentional action. When God judges everyone, he judges them based on their situation. I don't know any person's situation. You don't either. So God says, there are many people, and that's why he says the animals too, because the animals don't know what's right and wrong. A lot of these people just don't know. Now, I want to answer a question though. Does that mean that it's okay to do the wrong thing because you don't know? Doesn't mean that. Doesn't mean that. It means everyone's obligated to go and to find out. But the judgment on the person who is accidental is obviously going to be different than the person who's intentional, right? If a person knows they're doing the wrong thing and they still do it, that's a worse scenario than a person who doesn't really know. And that's the whole tie-in here. We have to understand this. So Jonah is upset. He feels like these people didn't really change fully, and still you saved them. And in the global picture, they're going to cause bad things in the future. And God says to him, when God's judgment is not a person's judgment, Hashem is looking at every individual and every nation. And what's happening is that there are people who could do better, should do better. It wasn't that there was no judgment on Nineveh. Eventually they were judged. These people, as they got worse and as they did certain things, they were judged negatively. But the judgment is for the purpose of the good of the people finding a way that we can see and direct them towards the good. Hashem does not want to punish anyone. He wants a person to learn and change and grow and become wonderful and great. And therefore, Jonah, what are you pushing here? Why are you pushing this idea? Why are you pushing that? That is the backdrop of this. Now, I want to discuss this a little bit today. Jacob, I think your thing is flashing in and out. I don't know if that's giving a problem for anybody, but it's kind of like a little psychedelic right now. Okay. So, all right. Matrix has a glitch. Yeah, exactly. Jacob, maybe put the video off. Maybe put the video. Yeah, it's better. It's better. You see you better now. So now let's understand this. There's a lot of things to talk about now. It's about judgment. First of all, I mentioned this to you many times. There is an idea that some religions have called grace. And they find that as a positive idea, that God just gives you a bye. It's not a good idea. Let me explain to you why it's such a negative connotation. I told you before, but let's understand. I have my 3-year-old child. I'm having them help me do the dishes. Okay, are they really helping at 3? No. Right. You are doing this to make them be busy, keep them out of your way, make them feel good that they're doing something, but they're not really doing anything. Now the kid grows up and the kid is 10. Do you not want the kid to maybe be doing something that they're actually doing something? Of course you do. Your goal is that you were 3, you couldn't do it. Now you're 10, you can. And it's not because I need the dishes, because I want you to be a valuable person. Therefore, the idea that God would say to somebody, listen, you can't do anything anyway. You're a klutz. You're a disaster. Just pretend you're doing something because you can't really do it anyway. That's not good. That means the person is not a human being. So the judgment is not about giving a bye. That's not the goal. Compassion, and I think I shared with you before, the word in Hebrew, rachem, which means womb, or rechem, that's why the mother has this feeling to the child. Rachem, she has rachem, she has compassion. The word rechem is the same word in Hebrew. Also has the Hebrew word machar, tomorrow. Why? If I flip the letters around, I spell the word tomorrow. Why is spell the word tomorrow? Because the parent, when it says this child is, I see what they are tomorrow. You don't see it now, I see it. That means the compassion is not no place. The compassion is there's good in this person. There's greatness in my child. I see it and I have compassion. I want to bring it out. If somebody is evil through and through, that's a whole different story. When we see the goodness in our child, we have compassion because we see the greatness in them. It's not being brought to fruition. So one of the things when God judges us, he is compassionate. He waits. He will bring some negative things, but not to destroy, but rather to wake us up to change. He will go and not punish us immediately. He will make it slow. He'll give us the ability to return. But the goal is not that you got to pass because you can't do it anyway. The goal is at the end, you're going to do it. So if I go and I have somebody who's messing up, and I have a choice now. I say to them, listen, I'm going to teach you a trade. Okay, great. And they mess up once. I say, okay, I got to dock your pay because you didn't show up, this and that. But I give them a loan. I go and I teach them something. I help them. What's my goal? My goal is not that they're going to stay a parasite. My goal is that 5 years down the road, they're going to say, wow, thank you for sticking with me, that now I'm doing this myself. Here's the money back you lent me. I earned this myself. That means I'm a person. So Nineveh, yes, like Rod said last week, they made some changes. They made some changes. And God said, great. Okay, there's a path that you made some changes. And Jonah said, listen, this is not good. It has bad reflections, bad connotations. God said, listen, Jonah, but you realize that this tree that you understood was benefiting you, that was protecting you, that had something good in this world, you valued. So you got to give that same value to Nineveh. Yes, they're not perfect. And my goal is not to go and to fool them saying you're perfect, but Hashem, God's dealing with them in a way that a person could end up getting compassion and then at the end earning it. Giving a person charity to their face is not the same thing as giving a loan or a job. It's a much lower level. In the levels of charity, there are 8 levels that are brought. The lowest level is I give somebody money to their face. And you know why that's the worst? Because first of all, I know who it is, so I'm haughty. But 2, they're embarrassed. But if I teach them how to do something, I give them a loan, what I'm doing, I do it in secret, which is a little bit not as good as the loan, because the loan they're really earning themselves. The person then feels like a human being. So that is the dynamic. Nineveh, like many, many, many nations, has their shortcomings. Everyone has their shortcomings. Every individual has shortcomings. And God is working with us to say, fix up your shortcomings. So you got to push. This is not easy. This is problematic. This is hard. And the goal is now to say, okay, I realize the problem. How do I fix that up and become the person that I can and I'm supposed to be? That's the thing we got to hear. We got to hear that. We got to hear that there's a certain power that you're given, a potential you're given, and your whole life is to bring out that potential. And this is the part you got to hear also. Every interaction that's happening, every situation is happening, is a tailor-made opportunity to bring out your potential. And that was what's happening here. Nineveh, yeah, they're not perfect. Hashem says, but yeah. How much could I blame them for not knowing? There's some blame for not knowing, but not like you think, Jonah. You say they should be wiped out. All right, but my judgment, God says, is very precise. My goal is that they should succeed. And therefore, how can I hold them accountable fully the way you want me to, when a lot of it is a question of ignorance, that they don't know? Now, this I want to take as a jump off point now for what's happening. This past I don't know, weekend was hate weekend. I think you guys heard about that. You heard about that? Amazing. I mean, it's like, they don't even polish it up anymore. Used to be they would make it like, oh no, this is something, something good, really. The Nazis, oh, we're moving you to a better place. Now they don't do that anymore. Now it's all right. Okay, it's called Hate Weekend, Hate Day. And so, like, first of all, it's very fascinating, because I don't know if for many other groups that they would have called that, I think we would have had the CIA, the FBI, and every organization all over them. It seemed to be, I didn't see much of a response. What I saw was like, okay, Jews, be careful. It's hate week. And it's amazing because it's literally happening during the Purim time. That's what it was. Purim was hate day. It was Haman set a day where all the hate, we're going to kill every Jew in the world. That was the plan. And that's what Haman called. And literally right before Purim, they called hate. Now, I wanna maybe hopefully give some positive reinforcement and positive, hopefully defense to some in the world. We talked about Nineveh. We just learned about Nineveh, and God said, even though they had problems, there was a judgment that was given to them with some consideration of their issues. Every single nation in the world has a special quality. Every single nation in the world has a quality to bring into the good. Okay? Every single nation. And it's important to know, that's why maybe it's important to know what nation a person's from. You know, even though today in the world there's a whole mixture of like, is that a bad thing? Is that a good thing? But it's not bad, because a person has a unique quality, and probably from their ancestors, they're bringing a certain quality that they have to bring back into using it for positive, into a positive way, and they have unique quality. By the way, it's same with language. Every language is in a certain. I always just tell people, there's a statement in one of the Torah sources says, I love this statement. It's in Aramaic, but I love the way it sounds. It says, Lishna kulmasa deliba. Love the way that sounds. What does it mean? It means Lishna, the tongue, kulmasa is the pen of the heart. The tongue is the pen of the heart, meaning that when I speak, I am expressing a whole worldview, what's in my heart. And if you look at every nation, you can see their qualities, right? Just think about their language. Think about the French. They're rolling, very, very smooth. Yeah, the French. Think about the Germans. That's the mindset. Every nation has a language. That's why there's the 70 languages. That's why every member of the Sanhedrin, the Great Court, need to know every single language. There's 70 nations. There's a Jewish nation. There's 70 members of the Sanhedrin. There was one that was on top, the leader of the Sanhedrin. There's 70 languages. There's Hebrew language. The Hebrew language, the holy language, is considered to be, I take white light and I put it through a prism, and it gives me the colors of the rainbow. 7 colors, which are 70, that is the white light expanding into all its parameters, which is why Moshe was commanded to translate the Torah into 70 languages. In Devarim, the book of Deuteronomy, God commands him to be'er heitev, to explain it well. It says to translate into every language, that every nation, everyone could have a connection through the pen of their heart, through their way of seeing the world. Every nation can bring in their good. And therefore, there's a bizarre, very difficult to understand commandment that we just dealt with, which is the commandment of a mullet, mechias a mullet. A mullet was the nation that tried to kill the Jews. Haman was an Amaleki. And we are not commanded, we're commanded to get rid of this stuff. Now, how could that be? Can Amalek bring something in? Who is Amalek? What is this? What is this nation of Amalek? Amalek is the one reality that is not a question of I don't know. Amalek is I know and I don't care. When I hold a mirror up and I show a person that's doing something wrong, you know what they do? They put their heads down in shame because they know they're doing something wrong. When somebody looks me right back in the eye, says, I don't care. This is what I want. That's a very, very different situation than every individual or any nation having a shortcoming. That is in the root of the problem. Now, there are some tailor-made signs to know if someone's a Moloch. What's a tailor-made sign? One is what Hitler demonstrated, which is that he preferred to kill Jews than to save his own self, right? Because that's what he did. When he had a choice to use the cattle cars or the trains to transport Jews to the crematorium or send arms to the front line, he chose to keep killing the Jews. It is a certain level that is so evil that a person looks and says, I don't care. God, you want this? I don't care. I don't care what you want. I want that. Amalek was the nation that originated that. They originated this concept. When did they do that? When the Jews came out of Egypt, the whole world shook. Everyone said, that's it. God has performed these miracles. Not a slave had never escaped Egypt before. No one. And now an entire nation, 600,000 people, that was the army age people, about 3 million people have just left. And Pharaoh was not letting them go. It was miracles. Then they heard about the Red Sea splitting. And everyone said, oh my gosh, the world is forever going to be changed. So came along one nation and said, no, we're going to fight. We're going to fight against the Jews. That was a month. They attacked the Jews after the splitting the Red Sea. They attacked them and went to kill them. Now, didn't they know they were going to lose? Didn't they realize? I mean, they knew what happened. They knew the story. So the answer was, this was a suicide mission. It was like the Nazis literally using the cattle cars and the trains to kill Jews, to send them to crematoriums instead of saving their own selves. And the analogy is like this. The analogy is like you have a hot bath. Imagine a really, really hot bath. And no, everyone's afraid to go in. So one guy says, I'm jumping in. He's going to get burnt, but he cools it off everybody else. That's what a mullet did. And that's why God said, it's not a question of, I have a flaw, I don't know, I like doing this, I have this problem, I have this tendency, I have this addiction, I have this stick in my head. No, there is a very, very small number of people like Hitler who literally will look you in the eye and you'll show them, I think, is murder bad? No, murder is fine. Most people understand murder is bad. I said, no, I have no problem with that. The Ubermensch, the Nazi statement was the strong, they took the Nietzsche philosophy and took it to the nth degree. The Ubermensch is strong. There's no reason, the famous saying that Hitler had in Mein Kampf, he says, the Jews put 2 scars in the world. The scar of the body was the circumcision, and the scar of the mind was the conscience. Listen to the words. Hitler says, it is the problem the Jews had was gave the world a moral conscience. You can't just kill the baby because they're born deformed. How could you do that? Hitler says, I don't believe in any of that stuff. I believe the lion eats the lamb. The strong could kill the weak, and there's no weapon. That is the belief. The level of evil we cannot imagine it. It's literally, we can't imagine it. I want to share with you, because when it says you got to take care of a mullet, but what does it mean? What happens if there's an amazing law. If the Amaleki, according to my mind, the Amaleki will accept the 7 laws of Noah, which means not to be a barbarian, not to be a murderer, not to be a blasphemer, not to be a thief, not to be a wild man eating live flesh from an animal, not to steal, not to keep illicit goods. If he accepts that, then there's no commandment about fighting and destroying these people. It's not about the people. It's not about a German. It's about a Nazi, about a person who says, my ideology is to fight God. That's what it is. It's an amazing thing, because what was there for? And I almost can't believe this. I've talked about it to you before, but it's really unbelievable. What was Amalek's philosophy? So the sages tell us there's something called gematria. Gematria means the numerical value. I take the numerical value of every letter. Aleph, A is 1, Bet is 2, and everyone has a numerical value, and every word will combine to a unique value. So it says you take the numerical value of the name Amalek, this nation, it equals the same numerical value as the word Safek. Safek means doubt. Doubt. Now, why is doubt so bad? The answer is because what Amalek said was, you're saying God created the world? You're saying this? Maybe not. Who said? Maybe everything is random. There is no purpose in anything. It's all random. That's what their philosophy was. Ladies and gentlemen, this is frightening that in modern society, that has become the leading thought. I think I said it to you. I might have said it to another class, so forgive me if I've said it before, but it's only because people don't think of the ramifications of what they believe. They don't take it to the next step that they're able to function and be happy. It's like, what's the point in life? No point. Everything means nothing. It's all random. Okay, so what do you believe then? Nothing. What's the purpose of your life? And then you ask a scarier question. If this guy believes that everything's a random accident, why is he not going out and murdering and pillaging? And I guess the only reason is maybe because he'll get caught, or maybe because he's afraid to. But in terms of the value, he doesn't believe there's any value because it's all random. There is no good, there is no God, there is no purpose, there is nothing makes sense. That was the philosophy of Amalek. And that's why it's amazing. You take the word Amalek and you break the word up, it spells the word Amal, which means the work of, and the kuf is a monkey. The work of the monkey. You're not a divine image of God. You're a monkey. What's the difference, right? The monkey see, monkey do. So you're an advanced monkey. Okay, great. But you're a monkey. You don't have anything. There's no purpose. You're just a monkey. What is the monkey? The monkey's interested in getting his banana. That's what he wants. So that's what I'm interested in, getting my banana. So you have a fancier banana. Your banana's a Tesla. Okay, great. But I could step on every other weaker monkey than me to get my banana. This is what's going on. So I guess I'm happy that people don't really think of the ramifications of this philosophy that makes it that the world is random with nothing. Because if they did, they would probably be very bad people. So what happens is like this, is that Purim was the battle of the Nazis, of the hate day, or the hate year, or the hate era against the Torah, against God and his people. And they didn't win. And therefore we have to remember, this has got to be taken out of the world. This is not, this people their goal is evil. We talk about loving everyone, and that is true. But you have to remember, the verse says, Ohavei Hashem sin ura. The ones who love God actually hate evil. Yes, the person himself, I see good in them. I see good in them. You know, Abraham prayed for the people of Stone because even though they were the worst, it must have been something good. He thought something good. Maybe it's 10 good people. There's something good in them. Jonah had a problem now. Jonah said, okay, this is going to be bad. It's going to fit into the cosmic thing. They're going to fight the Jews. And they didn't really fix it. God said, but there's still good in them. And even the fact that they don't understand, they're not a mullet. They're not like evil for the purpose of evil. And therefore, I think it's important to know this. What I'm going to tell you now is really, really important. The Ramchal says, Rav Chaim Moshe Chaim Luzzatto says that people in life, there are some very, very few people who are thoroughly evil. Very few. Thoroughly evil. Most of the people you probably know, maybe not so good, maybe have it, but there's something good in them that you got to draw out. It's a mullet concept. That's why we don't know who it is and what. We don't know where, who. We don't know who. All we do is when they pop up and they show their heads and they call the hate day, I hope the fact that, there weren't big incidents across America, I hope that means that most people who maybe listen to this nonsense don't have that point of complete hate in them. And the people that do are very, very few and far between. And that is the thing that happens in Purim. I always ask people, I say, I have a question that I ask people a lot of times. If you look at the Torah portion, when God gives the Torah, does anyone know the name of the Torah portion that God gives the Torah in? It's Parshas Yitro, Jethro. Jethro came and he converted. And I always ask the question, I mean, I don't know, if you know, I was doing it, I would say, wait a minute, let's call this the 10 Commandments. I mean, this is like, yeah, Jethro. I mean, it's like, what is the, you know, I know it's not Jethro from Beverly Hillbillies, I understand that, but still, Jethro is the name of the Torah portion with the 10 Commandments appear. Oh, aren't you Jethro? It's Parshas Jethro. Oh, it's crazy. And it's like unbelievable. Why is that? So this is an amazing answer. It's very true. The answer is because the Torah was able to be given only after Yitro removed the evil. He was an idolater. He was the leading philosopher of the idolaters. And when he said this is all nonsense, he removed evil from the world. When you remove evil from the world, goodness can come out. As long as you don't know what it is, you got a problem. And therefore, whatever, a mullet, whatever that evil in the world, we don't know who, what, hopefully we won't see more Nazis in this world and people like that. But every year we call out to God and say, remove the evil. He removes the evil step by step. The evil is not what we're talking about is a shortcoming. The people of Nineveh had shortcomings. Every individual has shortcomings. Every nation has shortcomings. That doesn't mean that's not called evil. Evil is when a person could look at, when Hitler can say, you created a moral conscience that I can't just kill what I want to. No, I'm not embarrassed I kill. I'm not embarrassed I may. I'm not. That's a different level. That is a world, that's something that I it's amazing because I think America, you don't realize how much America has taken from the Torah in terms of its basic ideas of compassion, because this is not what the world was. I think I told you this also, but it just the whole. I mentioned it before. The fact that in Athens, the intellect of the Western world, they would kill a baby who was born with some deformity, and that was considered to be the proper population control. And we see these phenomenons, people expressing these same ideas now. It's contrary to the Jewish idea of true compassion. And so we don't realize that so much of the Torah has seeped into society that most of us feel, even if we disagree with someone, is that other person evil? The biggest problem that's happening in American society right now is the inability to think. And so people, if you disagree with me, you're terrible, you're evil, this and that. And they call everyone a Nazi, which is just stupid. Because that's not what it is. What it is that have a different opinion and learn to talk, learn to think, and you can communicate. But I don't think most of the people who have divergent views, maybe even opposite views than you do, I don't think that most of them are a mullet. Most of them are people who have some kind of mistake. They don't know their left from their right. I mean, literally. Tar, let's get the analogy here. I know my left from my right. It's like is that happening in the world today, Tar? Yeah, we don't know what's flying. People think so. Okay, you got a problem. You got something wrong with your brain. I'm sorry. I feel bad for you. I feel bad that you've been brainwashed by everything. But it doesn't mean the person's evil. It means you may have a hard time getting through. The commandment of Purim is the battle of good and evil, which is not, and by the way, they tell you the same things. They tell you this all the time. Even the whole thing with Ukraine, It's the battle of good and evil. Let me just tell you something. For Zelensky to go compare it to the Nazis is insane. Because whether or not, and I'm not justifying the war at all, but it's a war that has reasons why the people are fighting the war. And if for example, one side would say, okay, we're not going to, we don't want to become native. We don't want to, so the war would stop. Hitler wasn't stopping when we'd say, we're not going to do what? His goal was to kill people. It wasn't a war of territory, a war of strategy, a war. It wasn't anything like that. It was goal to kill. So when we think in these terms of everyone else is a Nazi because we don't understand their opinion, it just makes us that kind of small-mindedness. The root of evil is really evil, and we don't even know how to take care of it anymore. We just got to call out. We had this week's Torah portion was to remember what these Amalekim did. Remember, they wanted to fight goodness. When we remember that, God says, okay, I'm going to now move it into the world to remove evil in the world. Right now, you can't go out and fight Amalekim. You don't know who anybody is. But you remember, there were people that were so evil. And God, we don't want that. And God says, you remembered it. You made it a point. You care about it. Okay, I'm going to remove these individual evil people from the world. And then every nation with its unique language, unique flavor, even Nineveh, everyone can now pull in whatever goodness they have and bring it to where it has to be, to unite it and to take that goodness from their unique way of seeing the world, their unique language, their unique view, and bring it into the system and elevate the entire world. Okay, that is my thought, and we are going to open it up to questions, ideas. Okay.
Anybody in the chat?
Yeah, I have a question there. A question, as my book says, as opposed to a shade. Also, the Hebrew is different.
There's a gourd instead of shade.
Oh, yeah, it's called a kikayon. A kikayon is a kind of tree. So
Okay.
what exactly is it calling it a gourd? I don't know what.
Because I picked up this Keter Crown Bible. That's what I've been using. And it has some different Hebrew in it than other versions.
Who is the ones that publish it? You know?
Chorev looks like the Jerusalem. Let's see. I believe Feldheim.
Oh, so Feldheim Feldheim's a a reliable source. Sometimes when we have like it's in Hebrew it's called a kikayon. Here's some what a kikayon is. It's a kind of what's a gourd? Wasn't a gourd like a pumpkin?
Yeah.
Well, it couldn't have been a pumpkin. It was the Talmud told that it had leaves.
Yeah.
I mean,
some of the Hebrew is also different than other versions.
Understood it. I'm sorry. I have understood that it was like a gourd tree.
Yeah.
You know, those trees that grow and they hang these things and they carve them out for bowls and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, I was just kind of thrown off because I've got, both a this and then I've got a I guess we call it stone edition.
It was a stone.
Yeah. It calls it shade.
Shade. Because like this, let me explain to you why, Stephen. Yeah. So there are, the Torah, which has been transmitted, the oral Torah has been transmitted. So very often, this is thousands of years of moving in exile. Right. So sometimes what you have is you'll have a discussion about, like say in this week's Torah portion, where it has the stones of the Kohen Gadol's breastplate.
Okay.
So there are the names in Hebrew, and then there's some discussion and not always a perfect agreement on. Okay. Kikayon is certainly a tree that gives shade. That we know clearly. Okay. Now, it's interesting because when Moshe, and this is how it happened in the desert, I don't know. It says that when Moshe taught the Jewish people, the kosher animals, he took every animal. Somehow God gave him,
Yeah.
literally. I think it made this just in terms of Jewish law. In Jewish law, only certain animals are kosher, fish, scales and fins, and most birds are kosher.
Right.
But there are, I think, 21 and 23, I forgot the number, 21 and 23 that are listed as not kosher. The problem is not everyone agrees to every one that's the non-kosher one. So if we don't, then we can't eat anything we don't know as having a tradition to be kosher.
Yeah.
Pipayon tree is a shaped tree, is a gourd tree. I never seen a gourd tree, but
I was just confused because some of the Hebrew is different, because I guess this is based on the Aleppo Codex.
Well, the Hebrew shouldn't be different. I don't know what you got there.
A little bit, yeah. There's like a couple of words that are a little bit different in different order, but I mean, for the most part, it lines up. But
Yes, can you send me later? Just text me, message me what's the
sure, I'll do that.
take a picture and send it. I'm curious.
Do you want me to send you through? How do I send an email?
Rabbi Ingber Gmail.
Okay.
INGBER, Rabbi Ingber Gmail.
Okay, I'll do that.
Rabbi Ingber, I just looked it up on Google, and Google says it's a castor oil plant. The kikaron in the shade of which the prophet Jonah sat outside Nineveh after his prophecy concerning that city's destruction. He says it's a castor oil plant.
I wouldn't rely on Google. I wouldn't rely on Google. I think that he maybe says it in the Chumash. One of the modern books that is pretty accurate, a lot of things, is Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan's The Living Torah. He goes through a lot of different names of different types of herbs and trees and animals, and he gives a lot of good, accurate research that he did to find out what it is. So I don't know. I'll try to look, but I don't know. Google. It needs some real research. Big leaves, that could be. But again, it could be that's why they're translating that. It doesn't mean it is, because we made big leaves, God made big leaves, and they're saying, oh, we know it had big leaves because the Talmud does talk about big leaves on it. It could be they're saying, oh, it must be this, is they're identifying it, but that's not a very
yeah. Okay.
You have an idea?
Yes.
Please.
Yeah, I will send that email to you then about that.
Right.
It's just a couple words that are different, but that's
Wonderful. Thanks, Stephen. All right, David, you have your hand up, David?
Yes, sir. Thanks, Rabbi. Going back to chapter 3, verse 1, and chapter 4, verse 4, where it talks about the word of Hashem came to Jonah, and Hashem said, what is the Jewish understanding of how did that happen? How did God speak to Jonah? What was the avenue? How did that? What's the understanding there?
So it's a long discussion. Maimonides goes through it in a bit of detail to explain the how prophecy works. So, but we have it from tradition, but again, we don't have prophets today, so how it works. But he usually, with a prophet, he has a vision, and then from the vision he understands something, and the expression of the vision comes out from him. The word navi is the word nifsasai, and he moves his mouth. Usually he has a vision. The vision shows him things. The vision is not necessarily a vision of specific things. It could be like Kabbalistic different visions. What he sees, but he sees something is transmitted to him. It's not like a person having a dream, because someone who has prophecy, he becomes a different person. If you read in the book of Kings, you'll see that by Shaul, that it says there that once a person has prophecy, he's a new person. He's experienced something. He has a connection with God that is clear. And a prophet who has prophecy knows he had prophecy. He can't be like, oh, I had a vision. It's not like a guy who had a six-pack and, had a vision and saw UFO. We're not talking about that. We're talking about a guy who it's clear, he knows God's transmitted to him, and the transmission generally comes down in terms of a vision, and from the vision, the words then flow out to explain the vision. That's opposed to Moshe, and this is very, very, very important to tell you now. Moshe's transmission was God dictating him the words. And that's a very crucial difference. And Maimonides has one of the 13 principles of Moses' prophecy being given to everyone else's prophecy, because everyone else's prophecy, their terminologies and their language is different based on who they were. It says that Ezekiel grew up in the country, and Yeshaya, Isaiah, grew up in the palace. His uncle was the king. So their language was different. And so when God transmitted to them the vision, the expression of it still went through their person, of who they were. So it's God putting the words, or putting it and not making them disappear. They're there, and the words are coming out through the vehicle of who they are. Moshe is not there. God's speaking through Moshe, and it's not Moshe's words. It's God's direct words, as opposed to other prophets who it's God speaking his word through the prophet, and not just speaking God's words to the prophet and in that way, Moshe. All right? Hope that answers the question. All right, good. Sandy.
Yes, thank you, Rabbi, for these series on Jonah. It's been very interesting. But I noticed in chapter 4, verse 5, it says Jonah made a sukkah and he sat under it in the shade. And then in verse 6, God caused this plant to form a shade over his head to relieve him from his discomfort. So he already had a shade from the sukkah.
Right.
Now he's got this shade. So is the shade from the plant something on a different level to relieve his discomfort?
Yeah.
It's not just shielding him from the sun, because the sukkah was doing that, evidently.
So the commentaries say that the sukkah was not giving him real full shade. And that's why he was so happy. So I said he was kind of like, he was still in the sun. It was not full shade. It was partial shade. And that was some comfort to him. He had joy when this kikayon, this tree or vine, went over him, because that gave him full shade. Then the tree dies. The sun beats down much, much harder. The wind, the desert wind comes in. I don't know if it destroys the sukkah, or the sukkah was too weak against the strong sun that came out, and that's when he has the problem. So the answer is that the sukkah did give some. The commentaries all say that it was not a full shade. That's why he had so much joy that this tree or vine was able to protect the rest of him. Okay. Yes, Cheyenne.
Hi, thank you, Rabbi. My question has to do with Amalek and what you're saying as well, that Nazi mentality. Like, we know that we let Nazis into America now, and we see the result of these mentalities being in America. Like, what do we do? What's our game plan to combat Amalek, other than just making sure we're grounded in Torah and our children? But how do we go and make sure that this doesn't keep escalating in our society? We know Mashiach will eventually wipe them out, but what's our role?
Yeah, it's a great question, because, even though we don't know specifically who is a mullet in terms of the commandment, but we do know right now that we got a lot of problems here. What's going on in the world, and it's not something. There are times where you just pray, and there are times where you need to do, and we need to do. I do really think that there's a battle going on for the heart of America, and I think that is I really do. It's one of the reasons why this class is so important to me, is that and people from different countries also, because it really is a global disease right now. People are embracing very bad things. mean, so obviously we have to, get, raise public awareness. We need to, find new methods. There are people who are trying to fight these things and speak, like, people like Ben Shapiro and Candace Owen, who are in the political realm, who are trying to say, wait a minute, we're losing our brain a little bit here in the things that we're saying. And so I think to get involved in all those things, elected officials, literally elected officials. I mean, I really don't understand how they called a hate day or hate week, whatever it was, and the CIA and FBI weren't like all over this. I mean, it's like it's fascinating. It's fascinating, track down every person who doesn't agree with this, doesn't agree with that, but people who come out literally nothing. So the first thing to do is to reach out to your senator and say, hey, why is nothing being done about this? And I hate to say it, the reason why nothing being done because it was the Jews. If it had been anybody else, it'd been like. And again, it's like this. I think I once told you guys this story. I was once invited to a lunch that these people were having. I used to teach these guys. They're having a lunch with a senator in Georgia. And this was back in when President Obama was the president, and there was some stuff going on with supporting Israel. And so they're all talking this and that, and they're talking, it was a Jewish group, and they're talking about Israel with the senator. And then they asked me to say something. And I said something, and I said to the senator, I said, listen, I really hope America keeps supporting Israel. And everyone goes, yeah. I said, but I don't think you understand why I'm saying that. I said, Israel, we have God on our side. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried for you. I'm worried America's going to come out on the wrong side of history if you don't do what's right. And everyone just shut up. Everyone's like, oh no, we brought the rabbi. Now he's insulted the senator. And the senator thinks he's quiet. He goes, you're right.
Rabbi,
he was very, very relieved. But that was the point. The point is that there is, America is a unique nation, and people don't understand it. And they don't understand, like, when I was a kid, you could say what you want to say, but racism and all this was much worse when I was a kid. I mean, when I was a kid, I remember as a little kid thinking they would never elect a black president. And it was true. In 1960s, that wasn't going to happen. And the world has changed in that way towards positive, but no one's seeing it. America has a unique role in that world because other societies are homogeneous. And all of a sudden, you have a country that's saying everyone could come in, and we're sharing certain goals and certain ideals. Now, America's ideals are not perfect, but they're pretty good in terms of the idea of freedom and letting people be free and expressing it in a non-harmful way. And so there is a goodness that has to be maintained that America is losing. And that's something worth fighting for. It's worth fighting for because people don't know what freedom is. Freedom is not what people think. Freedom today means to everyone, I can get all the goodies I want because I'm in America. So that means that I'm entitled to 3 cars and 3 TV sets. That's not called freedom. Freedom means that you can do what you believe is right and live a life that you believe. They came here from to America because they're being persecuted for their beliefs, their ideas. And every human being has to have his belief, what he thinks he's doing in life. Even if he's mistaken, he has to, as long as he does not infringe and harm someone else, he has the right to do what he has to do. If he does, he's not a person. That's freedom. And so I do think that there is a battle of the American people for where America will stand. And therefore, when you see hate, you gotta stand up and stand up wisely, because I mean, it's amazing to me. I mean, my mother was in Auschwitz. Both of my parents were in the Holocaust. I never met my grandparents that were killed in the Holocaust. Most of my aunts and uncles were killed in the Holocaust. And yet I hear every guy calling everyone else, disagrees them a Nazi. I've never seen such a thing. Guys, yeah, you think that you're not, do you know what a Nazi is? You don't know what a Nazi is. Nazi is a person who is in the embodiment of evil. It says in the text, he knows his creator and he rebels against him. That's what a mullet is. It's not like a mullet is, I didn't know, I thought, I made a mistake. I know what it is, and I don't want. So what happens is that when those people come up, we have to say, this is unacceptable. People that love God hate evil. So that's really, now, most people are not thoroughly evil. They're confused. And therefore you got to try to speak to them. So this is the battle right now, really for the heart and soul of America. So I think it's important for everyone here to be involved in that. It really is the battle for is this country going to remain a place that, supports something like Israel? Again, I'm not, it's not because of it. Yes, I'm not saying they shouldn't give their support. I mean, given what is 120 billion to Ukraine already this year. I mean, I'm not sure I understand all that exactly, but again, it's terrible what's going on. But they're producing more war. It's not wise the way they're handling any of this stuff. They should have forced a peace a long time ago. But what's happening is that there's stuff that's not good, and for the not good stuff, you got to stand up and call your congressman and say, hey, what's this national hate thing? Why are you not doing anything about this? Why is this not? Why are you raiding and finding and pulling out the people that are Nazis and have called for violence? That's not already your First Amendment right. That's transgressing your First Amendment right because you call for violence. So yeah, let's do that. And that's why this is a very important class, because people need to understand, and it's not just America, we're talking America, but there are people from different countries. But it's a global thing right now. We do live in a global society where the values here go there, and everyone's on this Facebook, and everyone's getting the same mother's milk. So again, we want to stand up for good. And, you can't, this is a problem that, the founding fathers of America, they had freedom of religion. I don't think they really ever imagined there would be a religion of no religion. They didn't really sort of see that coming. My belief is anarchy. That's my religion. So I don't think they saw that coming so much. It's a little bit of a problem because, and I discussed this with you once before, I think. This is a very uncomfortable problem. If a person doesn't believe in God, they cannot believe in objective morality, because where is the objective sense coming from? So if a person doesn't believe in God, we say to them, we want you to be good. We want you not to kill. And the person says, okay, well, why shouldn't I kill? So they say with the social contract, well, if you kill, you steal from them, they'll steal from you. So the problem with a social contract is some people can say, I want to be part of it. And someone like Hitler says, I don't want to be part of it. I think I'm stronger than you. So I don't believe in that. So when a person doesn't believe in God, the next step afterwards is there's no objective morality. So if Hitler says he wants to kill Jews because he believes it's a wonderful thing to do, how do you argue with it if you don't believe in any objective source that killing is evil? And so even though we've taken God out of the equation, be a nice person, you don't have to believe in God. The problem is that people just don't think the next step. Once they go and say they don't believe in objective reality, then they're on a very slippery slope to come along and say, well, there is nothing. And that is what's happening. Don't be fooled. Tar, we've discussed it many times, but don't be fooled here. What's happening is that the breakdown of all barriers is that same thing. There's no, it's just, there's no right, there's no wrong, there's no men, there's no women, everything is muddled because there's no source who dictates anything, and that is anarchy. And the purposes of that are not healthy. So we got to fight it. We got to fight it. We got to fight with our mouths, through speaking, through standing up, and let's hope it doesn't get more serious. But it is moving towards a very serious point in the world.
Rabbi, I have got to add something that is brilliant. You very well and eloquently laid out really what we are to do if we expect Mashiach to come. Right? If we really expect him, there are some expectations of the nations. There are expectations of the Jewish people. I was having a conversation with an Air Force chaplain. Yeshiva Pirkei Shoshanim is the endorsing agent for quite a few Orthodox chaplains, right? And so they're doing some research at the Special Warfare School for Air Force radio controllers, the guy that works with special operations that calls in the flights, right? Mm-hmm. And they do a survey, and basically it says that in the category of faith studies, that atheists at a high rate, like 68% of the atheists, were less likely to sacrifice for the greater good of the team.
He's right. If you're an atheist and you sacrifice the greater good, you're an idiot.
It's
because there's nothing
right. Right. So this is statistical, and I'm asking for them to hand me the statistical data because this is important. I mean, these are highly trained, highly motivated. They're not evil people. You know what I'm saying? They're highly trained airmen and military. And to say that of the survey, the atheists were less likely to sacrifice for another is mind-boggling. Like, I wouldn't have thought that, but that now makes sense to us because there's no sense, there's no moral impertitude that says that we have an obligation higher than ourself.
That's right. And let me just add one thing to that, which has to do with being eternal. Which has
that's the other thing. Yes.
When you have a higher thing that you are ascribing to, that means that you are not a physical entity only. Who this is it. So subscribing to a higher understanding, a higher power, means that there is beyond this, and a person thereby has an eternal component to them. But if life is an accident and there is no eternal component to a person, why? It makes no sense. For sure not. It makes no sense. None of it makes sense. And the only reason why anyone will keep any law that would infringe upon any pleasure that they have is because they're really afraid. There'd be no other reason. Think about it. I mean, I don't shouldn't say this because I'm going to give ideas to these people. But what happens is like this: if a person says everything's an accident and there's no purpose in anything, and they die, they're gone. There's no right and wrong because it's just an accident, just like the lion eats the lamb. So then they say, what should we do? So they say, let's do the old Greek motto, eat, drink, and be merry, because tomorrow we die. There's no point in anything. So if now the number one objective is to get pleasure, why would I refrain from getting pleasure for anything? Why would I not steal if I want pleasure?
Why not murder? Why not rape?
Is because you got caught and you'll get worse problems.
Right.
Okay. So better not defund the police because
Right.
you don't have any other reason to do it. You're not saying, you're not sitting there saying, oh yeah, so I no, you're doing as the Talmud says, if it wasn't for the awe of the government, people would swallow each other up alive.
So true, so true.
The
Rabbi Ingber, can you take one question from YouTube? Somebody's asking, does the name Jonah have a specific meaning?
Yeah, we talked about it in the first session. The word Jonah, again, in Hebrew is Yonah, and Yonah means a dove. And we talked about that very often, that the idea of a dove and why Noah sent the dove, and the dove is the faithful bird. He's the bird that has fidelity. Special law in the Torah about which offerings you could bring. You can't bring the one dove because there's a pigeon dove, and there's a turtle dove and a pigeon. And one of them, once its mate dies, will never have another mate. You don't have to bring one alone. But the point is that dove is the symbol of fidelity, and Jonah had a certain fidelity. He had a certain sense of, one of the reasons he didn't want to go on this messengership because he was afraid it was going to, make the Jews look bad, or as we said before, these people were going to eventually come and fight the Jews, and this and that. And he had this type of fidelity in his relationship to his nation and to God. Okay. Sure. Last question. It was getting late, Sandy. One more.
Sandy, my dear, you froze up.
All right. Sandy froze, and
let me share an antidote until she comes back. How about that?
Was that?
Let me share a little thought. I have a guy that I've been working with who is a motorcycle, guy, in a club, enthusiast, former military veteran, twice around, combat veteran, just a crusty guy, right? So I go to visit him the other day, and I've been sharing him sort of Torah concepts, et cetera, and he looks at these little baby doves land in his yard and eating, and he goes, you ripped me from dove hunting. I said, why? And he goes, because I see all these doves, and I realized God wanted the Hebrew people to bring them if they can't afford it. It's like the lowest level of bringing an offering. Like, this guy has no paradigm. It was so beautiful. I'm realizing, don't underestimate the power of just saying something that's in reference to something. Don't push it. Just say it. And it's beautiful. It's like he said, I'm not going to kill another dove because I realize that Hashem thinks, or God thinks, that this is a really special animal that you should sacrifice. And I thought, okay, I'm not going to say anything.
Interesting.
Sandy got bumped off. And what was the answer?
We'll be on for next week, everybody. And Sandy will send the question. Oh, Sandy, you're here now.
Yeah, I got bumped off, so I didn't hear any of your answer. Sorry.
Well, we didn't hear what your question was.
Sorry. Yeah, I said the book ends rather abruptly, where he just left here. Is there anything in Midrash or anything that tells us what happened to him after this?
Yeah, there is some discussion about Jonah. I mean, there's a big discussion about, did Jonah continue to get prophecy after this or not? There is an opinion that he did not, because it says that he, so to speak, defended the honor of the Jewish people, not the honor of God as much. There is an opinion like that Jonah, even though he did it for good reason, but that his hesitation. So, and there's other opinions that not exactly like this. There is some discussion. If he continued to prophesize after this, or this was his final prophecy.
Very good question, Sandy. Very good, Rabbi. So we have wrapped up the book of Jonah. I would still like to chat with you maybe tomorrow. Are you available sometime in the morning to chat or no?
Yeah, tomorrow. Yeah.
Text me when you're available and let's talk, because I'm hoping to encourage him to continue with some sort of specialized subject matter. I wanted the prophets, but God forbid that I would tell Rabbi Ingber what he would do. So you tell me what you want to do, and we'll be in a good place.
We'll be on next week, and we'll
Yes.
surprise you with another good topic, God will.
Excellent.
All
Okay,
right,
guys.
that sounds great.
Beautiful.
Well, thank you so much, Rabbi Ingber. Beautiful, beautiful lessons in the book of Jonah. We hope all you folks out there enjoyed it. Thanks, Rod, for sharing with us everything going on with Netiv, and we wish you well at all your ventures. So we're going to sign out for now. That's been our Working Together series for today. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, everybody.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks. Thank you.
I said, yeah, we'll be back at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific with Zoom Daily with Rabbi Shlomo Schwartz if you want to tune into that. Till then, take care.